Thanks for tuning in to the Elevation Recovery Podcast, your hub for addiction recovery strategies, hosted by Chris Scott and Matt Finch.
So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just kidding. We're not going to open with that. But today is Tuesday. This episode's going to come out Thursday, which is New Year's Eve. So I thought I'd start at least by doing a 2020 kind of recap. And so it's not going to be long. 2020 absolutely sucked in many ways. But the good news is it's almost going to be 2021 in a few days here. And then everything kind of gets to reset. And because I don't know about you two, but when 2020 started, I was like, this is going to be the most epic year. And it was a really good year for me. But I rarely think about things in that way. Now I've got more of a view to where I'm looking at 2020 for our country. And it's been pretty bad for the whole world, really. But the good news is there have been so many new addiction modalities that I've learned about, reading articles and listening to podcasts. And there's been a lot of policies that are kind of moving in the right direction, but they're still way slow. And this podcast, I think we have somewhere around 140,000 downloads. I think this is like episode 157, I think. And it's only been a year and a few months. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's awesome. And I don't recall exactly when we started this podcast, but just so everyone knows, we have 3 people today. And the people watching YouTube, which I assume we'll put this on YouTube, will know. But it's me, Chris Scott, Matt Finch, and Coach Tana is with us today. We've figured out the technological challenges to doing that. But yeah, I think this has been the most bizarre year that I've ever lived through by a long shot. Probably with September 11th being the second most bizarre. And in terms of bad things happening to people, sort of lucking out that it didn't directly happen to me in this case. By some miracle, I haven't gotten COVID. My MMA coach did. My training partner has the antibodies, which is very odd. So maybe I did have it at some point, although I tested negative 3 times. And I just feel horrible for everyone negatively affected by the lockdowns and obviously the people affected by the virus itself. It's a very nuanced issue, and I haven't wanted to, it's like the second you start talking about this type of thing, you become political. And then half of the people who used to look up to you unsubscribe and all that, which at this point, I'm probably about ready to say that, and this is not by any means I'm not the first person to say this, but I think the lockdowns are causing more harm than good. And I see this from the lens of all of the people who are emailing us, sending us messages, who have relapsed, who are having serious mental health issues. You see the rates of suicide going up. When people are jobless, they lose their spiritual direction. They start behaving in ways that they normally wouldn't. All of the routines and constraints that they had on their lives before kind of fall by the wayside. And, so now you see some studies with people, half of Americans day drinking at home. And it's kind of like despair. I don't know if we've ever seen anything like this. Maybe not since the Great Depression, where it's just widespread despair. And yet we also live in this high-tech cyber bubble where you can waste away with this brilliant piece of technology, but smartphones. But it's really easy to spend your time watching stupid meme videos. Not that the best of us don't watch memes, but being unproductive and just fueling whatever the negativity might be, or just not being proactive. It's really hard. So I think it's been tough. In some ways, it's been an incredible year for me personally, despite everything that's going on. But I don't have to go to work to go I have to work, but luckily it's not like Fit Recovery is not a location that gets closed, right? And so that's something where I'm extremely fortunate that I get to work with you two and the other people who make all of this possible, and we get to help people. But honestly, because my enjoyment of what I do is driven by fulfillment first, it pains me more to see infinitely more people needing help, then it makes me feel good to help the number of people that we reach. And it keeps me motivated to wake up every morning and reach more people. That's for sure. But it's kind of like I'm trying not to make this rant too long, but this is the last thing I wanted to put here. I've always said there's like a vibe in the air that even if you insulate yourself emotionally from external things, and that's something we've talked about, being able to stay calm or stay stable amidst chaos or amidst irrationality or amidst drinking culture, there's still a vibe such that even though I don't have a typical Monday through Friday 9 to 5 job, I do, for some reason, find it easier to relax on Saturdays and Sundays because I go out and people are kind of moving a little slower. They look a little happier. Maybe they're smelling the flowers. They're, enjoying a little bit of sun. And in a similar way, and then Monday through Friday, I sometimes get a little more stressed because people are driving faster and they need to get home from work or whatever, people are stressing them out. They have their boss. So there's something in the air. Similarly, in a macro sense, there's something that's been in the air with these lockdowns, with the virus, with the panic. And that's been palpable to me. And that's something that, is, you try not to let it affect you. You try to do your best, but I can't wait until the day when we don't have that hanging over us like a stale cloud, because it's, there's a lot of suffering out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I wish that we had a location that we could all go to with like a big whiteboard. And I think it would be fun to be able to, I think about that often, like, would I get more done if I could go into an office and hang out with you two? But talking about all of this, and I think we're all kind of just exhausted of talking about COVID and the election and everything else that's going on in the world, like the riots and things like that. But I think, I believe we are giving away one of the freedoms that is ours to have. And that's our freedom of choice to choose how we think about all this stuff. And I've been thinking about this a lot because I came across this quote. I wrote it down. I had to write it down because I can't remember it. But it's by Viktor Frankl, who was captured in the Nazi into a concentration camp. And he wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given circumstance, to choose one's own way." So after this man had been stripped of everything, stripped of who he was, what he did, even his wedding ring was taken from him. He said, "I still have one freedom nobody can take from me. And that's my power to choose, my freedom to choose how I respond, what I think." And the one freedom that we have, we're giving it away. We're giving it away to addiction, to negative thinking, to stress, to anxiety. And we have to sit back and realize, as we're so frustrated with whatever is going on around us, maybe we should take back that freedom of, today I'm going to choose to be happy. Today I'm going to choose not to drink. Today I'm going to choose to be healthier. Today I'm going to choose my own way because I still have that freedom.
I love that. And typically nowadays, my emotions and my mental kind of groundedness and inner peace is usually 24/7. But recently, like the last 2 days, and even more so yesterday evening towards the night, I was noticing like, whoa, I'm feeling like this huge energetic kind of emotional like outflow. Like I wasn't like sad or I wasn't anxious or anything. I've always had kind of a difficulty kind of labeling emotions. That's like I'm a very intellectual. I'm emotional, of course, too, but it's not like a topic that I'm like fluid in. I could just talk about emotions and this or that. But I did notice something was different, much different. And it was like, I guess it could be kind of like searching for intuition of, I don't know, the future. It was more like this kind of not quite melancholy, but it was just, I was feeling things and I was like remembering things from the past. And then when I went and walked last night, the moon was just like boom. So of course I
Beautiful.
looked up what's going on with the solar system here, and this full moon that's coming up tomorrow, December 30th, is, I think they call it a cold moon or a Yule moon too in Europe, because it's the full moon right after Christmas. Anyways, it's a full moon in Cancer. And whenever we have those, I was like, no wonder. I'm a Cancer, a triple Cancer, actually. So I know a lot. This is very soft, not even science, but I do believe some of the stuff. And whenever there's a full moon that's like really, sometimes I feel those hardcore. In fact, in my drinking days and drug using days, if there was crazy moon activity like that and I was feeling all the energy, woo, I would go out on the bender of a lifetime because I didn't like feeling those feelings. So the last 2 days and more so yesterday, to kind of process those feelings, I've been walking barefoot on the beach, walking around my neighborhood, not bringing my phone, not listening to audiobooks, not listening to music, just kind of walking and being in nature and letting those feelings come in and out. And just kind of, then today I feel great. You know, I used to stuff all that stuff, or I used to drown it with alcohol or numb it with drugs. And it was out of control back in the day. I was undiagnosed bipolar 2 for all that time. Tana, I know you have some experience with that too. So it was kind of a cool reminder to be grateful for how stable my mental and emotional health is now, because, you know, who knows, any day something could happen and all of a sudden your brain's not functioning right. You're all over the place. And this type of way of living for me is so much better. I feel so much better. I'm able to be responsible, raise a kid, have a girlfriend, have our family. But with those crazy emotions all over the place, you know, a lot of people don't know how to deal with those in a healthy way. So going for a walk in nature almost always fixes things. I think people don't utilize that tactic nearly enough.
Yeah, I decided to reclaim my Mondays because I was starting to absorb the negative Monday energy. And one of my first achievements after quitting drinking was learning how to enjoy Mondays again. Even though back then I did have a job, I was a trainer, I was going into the gym, but I had no reason to stress the way I did when I was in finance. And I would have just drank through the whole weekend. Often I'd have to go into the office, sometimes having drank, and do work because that was the nature of that job. But then Mondays were the worst. Everyone was uptight. It was like, you know, no one likes Mondays. So I wanted to change that. I wanted to reframe my Mondays. And I kind of succeeded in doing that, partially when I was a trainer by setting odd hours. So I would start working. I would have some people that wanted to come in on Sundays, and then I would just take Monday off to the extent that I could. Or I would just start my Monday at 4 p.m. I wouldn't get up at 4 p.m., but I would start the things that I had to do at 4 p.m. and have like a really good morning routine on a Monday where it was stuff for me, like stuff I gave myself permission to do for myself. And, you know, furthering my meditation efforts, which I've been on and off again every few months since then, almost 7 years ago at this point. But I recently revamped. Every 6 to 8 weeks, I revamp my schedule. I get my whiteboard and I wash it. I get all the remnants of the last cycle off of it and all the things I was excited about, usually around 75% of which I actually achieve. So there's some carryover every 6 to 8 weeks. And one of the things on my new whiteboard was on Mondays, I'm going to go for a barefoot walk on the beach. And it's not particularly warm out here. So I've gotten some funny looks from people all bundled up with like mittens and hats and scarves on. And I'm walking in, you know, basically compression shorts and a, you know, bathing suit. And that's it. I'm also, I try not to judge people. I'm like, why are you wearing shoes? Like, even if you're going to bundle up, like just at least get some earthing it. But I guess it's not common knowledge yet. And, or at least get some earthing shoes. Anyway, so I've started doing that. I went for a barefoot walk on the beach yesterday. And all of this is after my MMA workout, which is normally a couple hours long. I try to get work done in the morning and then work done after my me time. That's one of the benefits of being able to control your own schedule. You still have to do your work, but you get to figure out when you do things. So the middle of the day, I used to schedule work and like calls, coaching calls and stuff for the middle of the day. But then I would feel weird. It was because I was missing out on the sun. And I wasn't able to get outside. I wasn't earthing. Who's going to go earthing at 10 p.m.? I've tried, but it can be odd. And so I started doing this new routine. So Mondays I do my MMA, go for a barefoot walk on the beach, and then I go to the range and I train for the zombie apocalypse, which you never know if it's going to happen or not. But it makes me feel good to go do that, and it's fun. And they have a guy who works at the range who used to be a sniper, and I learn all sorts of cool stuff. So that's been my routine for the last several weeks, and it feels really good. I've slept better for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at least. I've noticed palpably better sleep. And I think a lot of that is just from getting some sun. My barefoot walk tends to be around 45 minutes long, so it's just enough time, I think, to get the earthing benefits. There's also something about staring out at the horizon with the ocean and just letting your mind be tranquil. I like to practice letting my thoughts flow without fixating on anything in particular. So it's kind of like I'm the observer of my thoughts. I just observe what's happening rather than being really caught up, object conscious with the thoughts being objects, or, just getting caught up in the video game of life. You kind of step back and it really, that helps to reduce any anxiousness that might come up or depression. Although luckily I haven't struggled with either of those in a very long time. And also, in conjunction with the sleep hacks that you and I have discussed recently, Matt, the glycine before bed, which I now do on and off. I like to cycle things on and off, with the exception of basic multivitamin type stuff. I like to cycle on and off magnesium, probably forever, because it's hard to actually get the amount of magnesium you need. But something like glycine, I don't know if it's been studied long-term. Like they've probably not studied someone who's taken 3 grams of glycine every night for 30 years. I don't want to be doing that. But every now and then, if I feel like I need a tune-up, I'll take it every night for a week or two. And the ziziphus, I think it is called, the Chinese herb that helps with sleep. I got that from dragon herbs, and that is amazing for sleep. And I was starting to, I had another hack where I like to just sleep with my curtains open when I need to start getting up a little bit earlier. And then that way I awake with the sunrise, or even before sunrise as the sun's starting to come up. Luckily, I have like a big, like floor to ceiling sliding door, glass door. And if it starts getting bright, it starts getting really bright. Then ultimately either I get up or the dogs wake me up because they realize the sun's coming up. But the problem with that was sometimes I'd still go to bed too late, and I wouldn't feel like going to bed because I didn't want to, because the inner child in me wanted to hang out and do stuff or go down some rabbit hole with rescue dogs on YouTube or whatever it is.
You're more of a night owl, right, Chris?
What's that?
You're more of a night owl, though, right?
Yeah, I am. But I know that I feel better, at least occasionally having periods where I'm getting up early. It's just a matter of getting myself to go to bed on time. When I was a drinker, it was because I didn't like to stop drinking. So I would want to stay up. I would stay up till 3 or 4 in the morning, even if I had just drinking, because that was my me time, because I had no other me time. And then I would get up at 7 and go to work and just feel like hell. And that's days compounding that lack of REM sleep, emotional instability, all of that. But now it's that, and it's not a massive problem. It's not nearly the caliber of problem it was then. But I become spoiled. I don't like getting 7 hours of sleep when I can get 8. And if I can get 9, I feel superhuman. I would never need a nap ever if I got 9 hours of sleep every night. I think the optimal amount for me is probably 8.5, which is more than some people, but less than others. But yeah, the ziziphus and the glycine and magnesium have been extremely helpful. And CBD, actually, if I find myself popping up too early, which has happened, sometimes I'll find myself waking up at if I actually get to bed at 11 or 12, sometimes I'll want to get up at 5 or 6. And a bit of CBD and then some of that ziziphus will just put me right back. And I have CBD vape pen, but I like the drops. I have some pretty strong drops. A little bit of that. I keep it on my nightstand, and I just roll over and go back to sleep. And I can get up if I want. I'm not groggy. certain things like valerian or passion flower or 5-HTP, those things would, if I did those, I would wake up at noon, and feel groggy. But a little bit of CBD, a little bit of those other things, glycine or ziziphus, which I feel very odd saying, helps me sleep for just long enough, like get the desired amount.
Yeah. I know I need to try some of these that you guys talk about. I tried the glycine. I like that, but taurine and GABA are my big ones. So if I don't normally wake up in the middle of the night anymore, but I woke up at 2 the other morning and I thought, okay, well, I'll just get up and do work. And then I realized, oh man, I'm too tired. So I had to take a GABA and a taurine. And then I usually just count backwards from 999. And I don't normally like 700 and I'm out. So I do pretty good at sleeping through the night, and that makes me happy. As long as I don't eat too late. But I wanted to ask you guys, what are y'all most looking forward to coming up to the new year? Like in 2021, what are you just so excited about? Like, is it, oh, maybe we'll stop talking about COVID, or maybe we'll stop wearing masks? I just joined a new gym and we have to wear our mask from machine to machine, but we can take it off when we're working out. And each machine is like, there's no space in between each.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this is so frustrating because I'm like trying to breathe and the mask is going in my mouth and it's very frustrating. So I don't know. What are you guys looking the most forward to in 2021?
I'm looking the most forward to three things. Number one, for the gyms here to be open indoors. They've been outside forever, and they're not only are they outside, but it's just like minimal equipment, just really not that much stuff to choose from. So I'm really excited about that. I don't know if it'll happen in 2021. I live in California. The way things are going here, I might have to wait till 2022 before I can work out indoor at a gym. We'll see how that goes.
Nice. You can work outdoors though. And
yeah.
It's not freezing or too hot. I love being outside.
Yesterday, I worked out chest and triceps in my living room with the sliding door open. I live on the third floor of, we call it a tree house because we're just totally in these huge trees. And I worked out with the window open. We had our first rainstorm since a long time. I can't remember the last time it rained, but it was tons of rain, no thunder yet. And so I was working out, listening to trance on my smart TV, listening to rain, and just pumping iron in my living room. Not as fun as a gym, but and plus my gym just sent me an email yesterday. January is on us. Come back to the YMCA and you don't have to pay anything till February. It's probably they're super desperate. Probably there's hardly anyone going because it's just kind of lame. The second thing I'm most stoked about is I have a client that has 3 homes, a second home and a third home. The third home she bought is in Palm Desert, which is a few hours away from here, pretty close to Palm Springs. And she's got a nice condo that I think is 1,800 square foot. Really nice. I saw pictures of it. And she said that me and my family can go stay there for free if we want to. She hasn't used it yet. She bought it right before COVID. She hasn't used it yet because she doesn't want to travel. I think in Hawaii, too, if you do travel and you have to be quarantined for a couple of weeks when you get back. So I'm excited about going on a vacation in a beautiful, it's like this gated community, and there's swimming pools, jacuzzis, a golf course. We have our own golf cart for it. And so that was really cool. And then finally, I'm stoked. I'm going to start body surfing again this winter in the freezing cold water with no wetsuit. Because I used to do that when I was younger, all the way up until even 34, maybe even 35. So, because that's just like the ultimate feeling. It's the best. It's one of the best workouts for me, swimming in the ocean. Then you're riding waves. You're getting cold therapy. I know that is the thing that I've been not utilizing that will probably improve my mental, physical, and emotional, and probably even spiritual health more than anything else. That's the ultimate workout for me. It's like circuit training.
Is it like surfing with a board? And what is body surfing?
You've
So
been
I have
deprived.
these, what's that, Chris?
I said Tana's been deprived.
I
You don't even know.
I'm feeling very sad right now. I want to go.
Imagine on my feet, I have two long fins, body surfing fins. And so then imagine me with my arms like forward, a wave's coming. I turn around, start kicking my fins underwater as fast as possible while you're going like this, or maybe even swimming like this. Then the wave starts to come and you propel yourself onto the wave with just your body. There's no board whatsoever. So you're laying down, going like this, or going like this, or going like this.
Wow.
It's a truly freeing feeling. Someone that used to be a board surfer, such as myself, it's very freeing because you don't have a board to duck under. You don't have a board that can hit you. You don't have to stand up on the surfboard. So it's just a real kickback way to do it. And so that's what I'm excited about. What about you, Chris?
Well, I was going to say, when I was in San Diego, was that 2 months ago? Like 6 weeks? Wow, time's flying. I was there for about a week and I body surfed every morning. And that's why I stayed where I stayed, right in Pacific Beach. And I could walk right down to the beach in the morning. And I always feel super responsible when I'm in California because I wake up 3 hours before I normally would. And so it's like 8 a.m. and I'm getting in the 61 degree water body surfing. And I just felt amazing every morning. I felt super optimized and it stays with you for the rest of the day. We have a gym here with an outdoor unheated pool that got down to, it's in the 50s, I think, because it's been pretty cold in Savannah. But it doesn't hold a candle to body surfing in the Pacific Ocean and getting all that scenery and salt and just incredible stuff. So I'm looking forward to doing that with you and getting back out there. I'm also looking forward to you teaching me how to surf because I've been deprived. I've not surfed. I think, Tana, maybe we talked about that. Have you surfed or is that something you wanted to learn?
I have surfed one time and I need to do it again because I didn't have the best trainer who he kind of just let me on my own. And I'm like trying to surf and the waves were like, they kept knocking me over. Like I couldn't even stand up. Every time I would stand up, they would knock me over and then I would paddle out and it was a nightmare.
We have Matt. Yeah, Matt will help us out. We'll do a fit recovery, elevation recovery trip, and we'll do some surfing.
Good.
And maybe that'll be like a template for our retreats. That would be something. At some point, it would be awesome to throw retreats if people can ever hang out in person again. And anyway, so as far as my year, I'm excited first and foremost about reaching more people with everything we're doing here. You know, the podcast, YouTube videos. I have some ideas that I won't share all of them because I like to be full of surprises. But I guess I'll share one of them. I'm considering becoming more active on Instagram, even though I haven't historically liked just telling people what I'm doing all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm going to experiment with it. Maybe I'll do like a 30-day experiment, see how it goes. And, we'll see what happens. I'm optimistic though, because I think that's an opportunity to be more involved, to give people a more interactive view of what life can look like after you've quit drinking and during the ongoing and permanent process of continual optimization. And I think that would be fun. So that's something I'm looking forward. I always like having a new project, especially when it makes me feel uncomfortable. And it's kind of funny that there's something that makes me feel uncomfortable that your average 13-year-old finds easy. That's such is life and technology. But I'll figure out how to take pictures and post them and do live stories, whatever that is. I'm still figuring it out. Beyond that, I'm looking forward to keeping a promise to myself that I've broken every year since I quit drinking, which was to schedule a ski trip and go out skiing. Skiing is my favorite thing probably ever. I grew up skiing. I've been skiing not quite as long as I could walk, but for a long time. And I haven't skied once since I quit drinking. I used to go every year. The last time I went skiing, I was dependent on alcohol. and I was a bit hungover on the slopes, and I felt fat and incompetent. I didn't want to ski the trails that I used to ski with ease. And I was just kind of, just on a ski trip and not having maybe 20% of the time that I should have had. And it's easy to enjoy great scenery, but not when you feel like you're living in black and white when you're not drinking. So I'm really looking forward to enjoying something that I've long enjoyed. And to be honest, I don't have a plan yet. I'm going to plan the trip in January for probably February or March, but it will happen this year. And by me saying it on this podcast, I know I have to make it happen. The specifics of scheduling it should not be an issue. Even with everything going on, I'm sure there's a place I can go and just get on some skis. So I'm really looking forward to that. So yeah, reaching more people, skiing, and learning how to surf / body surfing out in California.
Nice. Well, I'll hold you accountable to that, Chris. I'll keep texting you.
Good. Do either of you guys ski? I feel like I've asked you both, but I don't know. Do you ski, Tana?
No, I want to do that too.
All right. I'm a good teacher for that. I could teach you both how. Matt, you said you've been skiing a couple times, right?
Well, I don't consider myself a skier nor a snowboarder, although when I was a kid, probably around the age of 9 or 10, I went skiing once or twice per winter for like probably 3 or 4 years. I was okay at it. I was like not great. But then I started snowboarding when I was 13, and I was like, oh, this is kind of like surfing. Surfing, you put your front foot, you lean on your front foot more. Snowboarding, you kind of lean on your back foot more. And I was like, whoa, this is so weird. So since I had surfed, it was kind of hard to learn that. Really funny, quick story. When I was 20, I think, 19 or 20, I went on a weekend snowboard / ski trip with my dad and some of his friends and one of my good friends, my friend Joe. And this is like 5 years after I started smoking cannabis. We got so blazed on the lift all the way to the top of the mountain. And this is me snowboarding at 20. And I'd only been like probably 2 or 3 times with years in between each time. We get to the top of the mountain, Big Bear Mountain, Snow Summit. And I'm so stoned that it's like, I felt like I was in that video game on PlayStation called Cool Borders that had come out around the time. It was a snowboarding video game we played a lot. And as soon as I got up there and started going, and I was like stoned out of my mind, it really felt like Cool Borders. And it took me, I think, 2 hours to get to the bottom because I fell so many times. And the snow was really icy. It was spring. It was like April. And a lot of it was fake snow being generated by the snow machine. Oh, man, I was so bruised up after that day. And that was the last time I went. No, I went snowboarding one other time after that. And then I hurt my thumb really bad. So snowboarding is not for me. So I would definitely do skiing again.
We'll get you on skis.
Snowboarding's too weird. I like facing forward with both my legs going down the mountain. Going like that, I'm a good surfer, but snowboarding, I just suck at it. But.
See, I've always been a wakeboarder, so I wonder if snowboarding would be better for me than skiing, because I could never get up on skis. But I don't know. It's different. One's water, one's snow. And
I can't get up on a wakeboard. I've tried. I had a friend when I lived in Atlanta. I had a buddy who had a house in Lake Lanier, which is a man-made lake about an hour north of Atlanta. And it was awesome. I felt like I was bringing the 1970s back. I was on 2 skis. I wasn't even slaloming it with 1 ski like the cool guys do. I had 2 skis and I was jumping the wake with my 2 skis, because every time I tried to get up on a wakeboard, they said I felt like I was deadlifting the boat sideways trying to get up. And it looked like my head was apparently skimming across the top of the water. And he was like, the boat's having a hard time like moving forward, because I thought I was going to break my back and then I would just let go. I could not get up on a wakeboard. I'm only straight forward. That's the only way I know how to go.
Sounds like we have a lot of fun stuff to do this next year. And I'm sure you'll enjoy skiing so much more when you're sober and not stoned.
For sure. And I don't judge anyone for snowboarding if that's what they want to do. Skiing's cooler, but you do what you want.
No judgment zone here.
Yeah, that's right. As long as you don't snowboard and sit on the side of the trail for like an hour and, become an obstacle.
How about if you just drink hot chocolate by the fire inside and watch everybody skiing?
Well, I have a eucalyptus essential oil, and I haven't really gotten into all the essential oils. I like clary sage, I like lavender, and I like eucalyptus because the first time I ever went out west skiing, it was a nice resort. I'd never seen anything like where I went to Telluride, and really nice place. And the steam room had eucalyptus. It was the first eucalyptus scented steam room I'd ever been in. So when I just sniff my essential oil of eucalyptus, it brings me back to going in a steam room for the first time when I was on a ski trip, and all of the memories start flooding back. It's the coolest thing.
Yeah, that's cool. I pour eucalyptus on the floorboard of my car.
That's a good idea.
But it smells so good. And so I'm just constantly just pouring the drops in my car. But so you could.
I love the scent of eucalyptus. Anything minty or fresh. Yeah.
That's how I am too. I like minty, fresh, refreshing stuff. Going in line with this topic too, with essential oils, aromatherapy type stuff. I haven't been using essential oils recently, but on those walks that I've been going on, which Chris, you inspired me to start going for barefoot beach walks again. It was first when you came to visit and we did it, but then you had said your new Monday routine a few weeks back. Since then, I've been going to Torrey Pines. I've been going to Dog Beach. I've been going lots of barefoot walks on the ocean. And so what I've been trying to do, remember, I'm not using my phone or earbuds. It's a combination of many things. I'm trying to, in the shortest time possible, maybe 45 minutes to an hour, get as many benefits as possible. And so the barefoot walking takes care of that, especially since I'm doing it in the water and the wet sand most of the time. But then there's also, since I'm not listening to an audible and not listening to music, and since I'm not with anybody either, so there's no conversation, I'm not like trying to think of anything specific, just letting my mind flow. But I'm also, so it's like a sensory, it's like a wonderful sensory experience to where I'm really focusing on feeling the sand in the ocean, and it feels great. And I'm putting my hands down in like this Qigong position, which you can't see. So I can like feel my chi building, and then it's like shooting into the ground. And then I can feel the wind all over my face and other parts. I can smell the ocean and the salt water, and I can smell seaweed. And I'm kind of just trying to notice everything. I'm like tasting, maybe I've got a mint in my mouth, or I can it's like full on just trying to absorb all of that nature, all of that beauty, all of that goodness into all my senses: hearing, sight, smelling, tasting, even intuitively feeling. And so I think aromatherapy is great. Like I know an aromatherapist, one of my mom's friends, she is really intelligent with that stuff. And there's actually a lot of great research and science behind aromatherapy. I think that any addiction treatment center should have like essential oil diffusers and no fluorescent lights, just like this nice, healthy lighting and great smells, big, huge flat screen TVs or complete walls that are TVs to where it looks like you're surrounded in nature, calming music, maybe with some binaural beats. Like if someone gave me a bunch of money and said, here, I want you to help design me the best addiction treatment program, inpatient detox facility, ooh-wee, that would be such a fun design project.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think especially if you put it in a location that was already beautiful. Not that places haven't done that. I guess the Malibu places in Malibu where it looks nice. But yeah, I think that was neglected. I'll say the aesthetics of recovery, if there is such a thing. If not, there should be. But it was neglected where I went, which was otherwise a very prestigious place, well known for, having a higher success rate than some of the other 12-step based ones. But yeah, lots of fluorescent lights. I can't say that it wasn't like it was horribly designed, but it was I'll say 20th century. It's time to bring addiction recovery into the 21st century. Use everything we know. I've found, as someone who used to be basically a science, evidence-based only rationalist, reductionist almost, there's a fine line between the science and the intuitive. I was going to say woo-woo, but I don't like that, because there are things that are woo-woo, but there are other things that science, we're just waiting for the studies, and we know enough anecdotally and intuitively, and the cost of doing it is so low that you may as well put it in there, like binaural beats. No one's going to get screwed up in their recovery because binaural beats were playing, or because they had nice non-fluorescent lighting, or because it smelled nice. These are things that could be covered, and I think are nice accents, especially for people who are sensitive to energy and for people who are visual. Like myself. And some people seem not to be sensitive to these types of things. My freshman year roommate, who's still from college, who's still one of my best friends, I remember my dorm in college, I never turned the fluorescent lighting on. It was like hospital lights. You had a switch for that. I don't think I flipped the switch all year, because I had my own lamp that I would use. I used a lamp. It was like a reading lamp with a warm glow. And then I had, all sorts of nice things, kind of cozy things to make it feel like home. My roommate had a mattress with a sheet on it. I don't think he had a bedspread. I don't know if he had a pillow, to be honest. He had a mattress with a sheet on it, and all of his clothes were stuffed in the corner. And he had the hospital lights on 24/7, even when he was sleeping most of the time. I don't know if he usually turned the lights off. I don't think he did, but just completely impervious to all of that. So people are different, and then I've always been like an outgoing introvert, or an outgoing capable introvert. I like people, I like connection, but I need to recharge alone. So I'd be in my bed reading sometimes for an hour, even if we were going to go out that night. And his version of recharging was walking around all the dorms and seeing all the people and just hanging out, like squatting in their rooms for an hour and talking about whatever, and then moving on to the next one. That's how he would recharge. If I had done that, because he was full extrovert, if I had done that, I'd be drained. I wouldn't want to talk to anyone for a week, if that was my daily thing for more than a few days. So people really are different. I think it's worth trying to figure out, how do we, for the sake of addiction recovery, but even beyond that, lifestyle optimization, disease treatment, how do we take into account people's inherent differences, which are some combination of genetic or innate and environmental or cultural or whatever, and use that ability to take those things into account to further their own treatment outcomes. And I think that's something that's possible. You wouldn't lock an extrovert up who seems impervious to surroundings and is not particularly visual, like my friend. You wouldn't lock him in a room, or not that you'd lock anyone, but you wouldn't ideally put him in a room with no one there to recharge with a bunch of Himalayan salt lamps and binaural beats, whereas that would be perfect for me. So I think that one of the things that has to be done going forward is getting rid of the one-size-fits-all approach and integrating modalities that we know help, but also paying special attention to which modalities help the most for which kinds of people.
That's a really important distinction. And there's so many things like that are either part of our personality or our character, a lot of it, which is innate too. So when you were talking about that, it popped into my head, oh my gosh, there's a potentially genius niche there for addiction recovery. If someone opened a specific inpatient rehab facility that was totally geared for introverts and marketed that way, recovery for introverts. You don't have to go sit around and do all these meetings with people. It's more like a kind of solo quest type thing. But so if someone doesn't know that they're an introvert or an extrovert, that's very important right there for your life happiness. Another thing too, you're talking about, Chris, the sensitivity to things, lights, loud noises. I talk about this quite a bit on my YouTube channel, which is sensory processing sensitivity, SPS. The more popular term is highly sensitive person. I did a solo cast episode on it before. It was called A Guide to Recovery for Empaths or something like that. And 20% of human beings, and as far as researchers can tell, 20% of the animal kingdom has SPS, sensory processing sensitivity, which is an innate biological trait that makes us faster cognitive processing speed, sensory processing speed. So if you're going somewhere that's just really loud and bright lights, tons of people, smells, someone with SPS is going to be less comfortable than somebody without it. So it's too many people, 20% of humans and animals. That's too much for it to be a disorder. It's not a disorder. It's just kind of an innate biological trait. And it's been confused with both. It's been confused for introversion, but that's not correct either, because I think 70% of introverts have 70% of people with SPS are introverts, but the other 30% are actually extroverts. So I have kind of both sides of it. I'm introverted big time, although I can be outgoing if I need to be or want to be. But I'm introverted, and also I have SPS hardcore. I've always been like, what the heck is different about me? Like, people are like, this is fun. I'm like, this, can't you see how, like, this is crazy. It's just too loud or too bright and loud and crazy. And so a lot of people with SPS or highly sensitive people will take downers, alcohol, opioids, benzos, muscle relaxers, something to calm down that overactive part of their brain, where anytime you watch a movie or anytime you go anywhere and do anything, your cognitive processing speed for all these sensory stimuli is so fine-tuned and kind of hyperactive that I've realized once that I learned about this trait that I had to customize my life for having SPS, because in America, it's mostly a place for extroverts. Like, the best way in America to be successful is to be intelligent, extroverted, and conscientious. The people that are like that can dominate. And so being an introvert in America was a lot harder until the pandemic. Now the introverts are like, oh, stay at home, no big deal. But, taking those beach walks, turning my mind off, like stopping the sensory stimuli from going into me that are from the computer and from the phone and all that. Do you think that you might have SPS too, Chris? Do you think you're...
Oh, yeah.
It sounds...
Yeah. The funniest thing is, and I'd forgotten this, but I remembered it while you were talking. When I was a kid, the scariest thing in the world to me, and by kid, I mean like 3 or 4. I remember some of my first memories we're going to the movie theater, and the local movie theater where we went, they had, the typical no smoking thing and the cigarette with the little smoke coming, and then that was fine because there was no noise and it was a dark screen. And then these very bright pair of lips, huge lips, would cover the entire screen, and a woman's finger would come up to the lips and go, shh. And I would freak out and try to run out of the theater. I hated the lips. I hated the brightness of the lips and the shushing. I couldn't handle it. It was like the longest shush of all time. And my parents thought I was just weird. And it could have been, maybe because I had a hearing impairment as well. So certain things sounded loud that shouldn't have sounded loud. It's an odd hearing impairment. It's not just a decibel issue, but I was sensitive to sounds, but also sensitive to sights as well. But I could not stand, to this day, I don't love going to the movies. I think part of it is PTSD from those damn lips that would show up and shush me for like 10 seconds straight. I couldn't handle it. It would make my ears ring or give me tinnitus for the rest of the movie. And yeah, I mean, that I used to get nauseous following my mom around in shopping malls because of all those fluorescent lights. And I feel like the mannequins were watching me. I was a borderline like schizophrenic kid. And I mean, but not clinically, but I would have weird thoughts and like panicky thoughts whenever I was out in public with too much going on. I did not like it. Heart would start to race. And I've gotten better now. It's fine. I'm centered. I've grown up. I've matured. So I don't know to what extent these things change as you get older. I lived in New York for several years, and actually almost 4 years. And I wonder sometimes how much I actually liked being there. I convinced myself that I needed to be in New York because I needed the energy. But at the same time, I was numbing myself with alcohol most of the time when I lived there. So I don't know if that was in part, the alcohol numbing down that area of my brain might have made the high energy place more livable for me, despite all of the progressively toxic and deleterious effects of alcohol. I think I'm definitely a HSP or have SPS or what you called it.
Well, it's interesting, Chris, and I don't know about you, Matt, is you and I.
You don't know if I'm interesting?
No, about technology. Like we both have admitted, like, I don't want to be on Instagram, but I'm going to try it. I don't like being on Facebook. I don't like posting. And I feel like all of that is a little overwhelming to me. And I am very similar to you in that regards. And I wonder if that has something to do with that going in and, being a part of that social media where it's such a big world on there. You have to post these things. Are you posting the right things? You got to look at other people's posts. Now I got to like it. Like I like all of your posts. Okay. I like you all. Do I have to like it? And I think that that's a big trap for all of that. And, we live in a time where we are sensory overload. I mean, from the minute we wake up, we're getting on our phones and checking our emails. And so I think that's why it's so important for me to have my quiet time in the morning. I never miss it. I never miss my quiet time. There are times when I do sleep in and my kids will wake me up, which hardly ever happens. They come in, they're like, "Are you okay, Mom? Why aren't you already awake?" And I tell them I need to go have my quiet time. And they're like, "Okay, we got to leave Mom alone while she has her quiet time." But now my son will say, "I need to go have my quiet time," because he's very similar to me. My daughter, she thrives on talking to people. She thrives on being around people and having all this energy. I mean, she's one of those, I've never been one of those girls who are like, "Let's all go to the bathroom together." But my daughter is that way. She is, "Mom, can you come to the bathroom with me?" I'm like, "Sure." And then she's talking to me and I'm like, "Aren't you going to the bathroom?" She's like, "Yeah, but I want to talk to you." She's just one of those people who, thrive on that, thrive on talking to people. But I do believe that we all have a sense to want to know what our meaning and purpose is in this world. And so no matter if we say, "Oh, I'm an extrovert," or "I'm an introvert," or whatever it is, we do need to have that time where we just put the phones away. And whatever it is, whether you meditate or you pray or you read or, you just sit still or walk on the beach barefoot, we have to have that time to reflect and contemplate and understand what our true meaning and purpose is. And it is fascinating because everybody is talking about like, "Oh, you have to be fast paced. You have to do all of this," especially a lot of the people who I follow, go, go, go from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. And I don't necessarily believe that's it. I believe when you're able to sit back and have faith and understand your meaning and purpose, you work so much better than when you're just going, going, going. And a lot of my clients who are like, "I don't have time to sit back and take time for myself." I tell them, listen, it's not the work that you do that brings you success. It's you. So if you're functioning well and your brain is highly functioning, you're going to do good work.
I love quiet time. I think many of us nowadays are addicted to thinking, to where something always has to be on. Like, some people where they have to have the TV on in the background or whenever they're driving. And I used to be like this, not with the TV, but I used to always have my my earbuds in there. My what are they called? The Apple Air. I can't even remember now. They haven't been charged in months, and I don't even care. But I used to always have to have those in at every waking moment during the day, I was either on the computer or on my phone with earbuds, just trying to be productive throughout the whole day. And it was that same thing you're talking about, Tana. It was from the culture, the success porn culture, the grind. The grind includes Friday, TGIF. I subscribed to that, and that's how I burned out. I burned out so much. I was unhappy. Business was good and it was going, I was very productive, but I was a father that wasn't present, that was impatient, that was irritated, that was pretty much, I wasn't unhappy, but I wasn't happy. I was kind of just like a robot that would get irritated and impatient. And so I like lots of quiet time now. Sometimes I won't even go to sleep, but I'll just go lay in my bed, not because I want to take a nap, but because my mom does it all the time. She'll just go lay in her bed, and sometimes she'll fall asleep, but she'll just go lay on her bed or lay on the floor even next to her bed and just close her eyes and just, breathe and relax and turn your mind off. I do that a lot, not every single day, but so between nature walks, between laying down in the bed, yesterday evening, I just kicked back on my couch and just stared at my bird and for 20 minutes just made funny faces at her and kind of talked bird language with her. I mean, I never would have done that a few years ago, 3-4 years ago. I didn't do that type of stuff. I've been incorporating a whole lot more playtime. And since I've got a 10-year-old and her friend spent the night and is over 2, who's 11, and we have a bird, and I got a girlfriend who's, 34. So, and she's real playful too. So we play a lot around here and we make jokes with each other and we prank each other and stuff. And having a combination of quiet time, nature time, play time, and like silly time, that kind of stuff, that's just ultimately important, especially for people that are kind of hardwired either innately or by culture to grind. You got to go. You're nothing unless you're producing, and you got to work 12 hours a day if you want to launch a business and do this and that. And
our time here on earth is too short. And that with having a daughter. I mean, in the blink of an eye, she's 10. My son's going to be 10 in February. And I feel like he sat on my lap. He's 75 pounds, but he sat on my lap. And I was just looking at him and tears came to my eyes because I was like, I remember when he was a baby and it feels like just yesterday. And I'm like, I can't believe soon he's going to be 13. He's going to be a teenager soon. And then 16, he's going to be driving. And it's really put everything into perspective of just how quickly time flies. And I don't want to waste any more of it because I wasted so much time drinking. And whenever I first left my ex-husband, I had like 3 jobs. I would drop my kids off at 6 a.m. and pick them up at 6:30 at night. They would go to bed at 8. I miss out on so much time with them, and I don't want to miss out on any more. So, it's important to be able to reflect and not worry so much about the grind, like you say.
I think everything you both said is spot on. I don't know about the kid piece yet. I'm not quite there. What's that?
I have dogs, though.
I was going to say, I have 2 role models for anyone watching this on YouTube for timeout time. Let's see if I can do this.
Oh, I love it when you show them.
Yeah. So anytime I need to have my time out and just go chill in my bed, I have 2 willing participants, and I lucked out. I don't think all dogs get along that well within, a short period of time of getting to know each other. But I've started doing what I used to do in early recovery, which is I called it a timeout. I would just take a timeout. It wasn't a nap. It wasn't meditation, although it could be. I'd sometimes repeat my mantra, but it was laying down and chilling. Rather, meditation, I'm trying to have good posture and, close my eyes or whatever. I'd have my eyes open or not, but I'd usually light a candle, put on the Himalayan salt lamp, put on a diffuser after, I think my mom got me a diffuser for Christmas at some point, put in some eucalyptus or clary sage or lavender in there, my friends, by the way, would make fun of me every time I would do this, but I didn't care. And then, sometimes I'd maybe go in and take an Epsom bath and then continue my de-stressing routine. But I never saw it as a waste of time, because what I realized was that I would have been able to justify spending hours drinking on my couch to de-stress. And so then if that's true, then why can't I justify having some silly rituals that, would become a new coping mechanism, essentially?
Say they're silly.
Well, even if they are silly, it's fine.
They're not normal. They're not what everybody, well, they are normal, but they're not what everybody else perceives as normal.
Right. Some very unique rituals, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have semantics today.
Yeah, sure. Silly, unique, whatever it was. I've kept them up for years. And I always find that my routines and rituals some of them fade out, but then I bring them back when I need them. So they're really tools for the rest of your life. That's true with supplements too. We haven't talked a lot about nutrient repair in this episode, which is fine because we've talked a lot about it in the past. But, like when I have a stressed out period, I'll bring magnesium or B vitamins or vitamin B12 back into the mix. Maybe I haven't taken it in a while. So it's good to know yourself and to know which tools help you the most. And that's an exciting thing. A lot of people think, well, I'm worried about the whole process of quitting drinking because it seems to take so much effort, and I need to get it down to a science, and I just don't have time because my job or whatever, I have so many things to do, and it just seems arduous. And yeah, maybe it's overwhelming at first. There's a lot of information, especially in Total Alcohol Recovery 2.0 in that course. There's a lot of information if you pursue coaching. However, it's not something that you learn once and then it's obsolete. These are things that will help you for the rest of your life, whether as coping mechanisms, as biological rebalancing mechanisms, or physiological rebalancing strategies. What price can you put on learning how to defuse your own stress response, or learning how to get a good night's sleep without alcohol or without toxic coping mechanisms? Yeah.
And again, Chris, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I really do think that this goes back to us giving away that freedom of choice. They're
absolutely
to allow alcohol to control their life. That's their choice. Mm-hmm. And they're giving up that choice because they're saying, I would rather be enslaved to alcohol than choose to go the right way and help me.
There is a point at which the addiction hijacks free will, but it's still within your realm of choice to use all of your conscious capacity, or whatever is left of it, to start taking actions to free your brain from that enslavement. And I think that's something that people miss, because they say, well, either drinking is a choice or it's a disease. I don't think that active addiction is either a choice or a disease. I don't think it has to be either of those things. It's a neural pathway that is firmly ingrained. And yet you still have, assuming you have any sliver of free will left, assuming that you can choose to put your left foot in front of your right and vice versa, you can choose to start doing things, start taking certain supplements, trying your best to implement some new lifestyle strategies, trying your best to read some things, to fill your brain with information that will rewire your subconscious processing system. You do those things for long enough, you can break out of that active addiction state.
I like that you said that, yes, it can be genetic, and yes, it hijacks your brain and body. And, I was probably depleted on serotonin for so long. Even as a little girl, I have just these memories of being depressed as a little girl. Why are you depressed when you're so little? So I like it that you say you don't feel it's neither a disease or a choice, because, at the end of right when I found you online, Chris, I talk about this all the time. I clearly remember sitting on the edge of my bed, just praying to God, give me a way out of this. I don't want this. I don't want to choose alcohol anymore. It's to the point where I say no, but then I do the opposite. And then I realized, man, there was so much more to it than just waking up early and, trying to get my life right because I was so depleted biochemically that was my missing link. And so, yeah, you do have a choice to get out of the disease.
For sure. Yeah. And I would define addiction as a series of stubborn, interconnected neural pathways reinforced by biochemical imbalances that can be resolved permanently. So there's no permanent disease.
Mm-hmm.
To the extent that you have any free will, you can start taking actions to reverse that problem. But it's really hard to do it if you don't have the information or the motivation or that inner spark.
Yeah. And it's so amazing because when I was at my last straw, your information came. And so many people who I've talked to, my clients, they said, all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, you popped up. And I was like, that's exactly what happened to me. So if you search hard enough, if you pray hard enough, you will find answers. But it's a lot of times people don't want to find answers.
I didn't want to find answers for a long time. Yeah.
I didn't either. And I even remember driving myself to rehab and telling them the right things to say so that they would tell me, you don't have a problem, you could go home. And I knew I had a problem, but, so just, it's amazing to be able to go from where I was to where I'm at now. And I know you can say that same thing, Chris, and you can say that same thing too, Matt, is if I could do it, then you could do it because I know my own personal situation. You know your own personal situation. I was at a point where I was like, addiction is going to take my life. Like I can't overcome it. And here I am, overcome it. And I'm thriving without my addiction. I'm thriving without alcohol. I went out to dinner last night and I got one of those big bottles of Perrier. Pellegrino. And I drank the whole bottle and my waiter came by and he picked it up and he's like, you drank this whole thing? I was like, yes, I was thirsty. And I was thinking, I used to do that with bottles of wine and I would feel so ashamed of myself. And I was like, but I felt proud of myself for drinking a whole big bottle of Pellegrino.
Oh, I crush big bottles of Pellegrino and all that stuff. Oh yeah. I'll even pour it into wine glasses sometimes.
Yeah, if it was a bottle of wine, I would have probably tried to put it in my purse. Like, I did not drink that whole bottle of wine.
Yeah.
Pellegrino.
Perrier. I'm pretty sure it's Perrier.
Perrier.
You're from Texas, so that's all right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Topo Chico or Perrier, whatever is the biggest bottle that they have.
Whatever. I go to Chipotle and get a quesadilla sometimes because I'm in Georgia, so I can't judge.
Sometimes I feel like, who is it? Yogi Berra? Because sometimes I'll just make up random words. And people are like, that's not a word. Like it is now.
Yeah, I do that all the time. Or I like intentionally mispronouncing things with a straight face to see if people catch me. Yeah, I tend to be a fan of wry, deadpan humor, and I haven't done a lot of it because I've realized that people don't usually know when I'm joking. So I just haven't done it. But who knows? Maybe on Instagram Live.
Let's see.
Yeah. Well, this will be, the year of maybe being a little more outgoing. Even if social media wasn't made for people like us, I bet we can hack it. It's a worthy cause. We got to reach more people.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we can change the way social media is done.
That would about that, but that would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Thought about, instead of Facebook, what if there was some type of social media platform that was only for people with substance use disorders, and that's all it was? And I was trying to imagine how that would be. And then I remembered that it probably wouldn't be that great. Just like, if people really, really want to do something, they're going to do it. Yes, you need help, but man, the will to overcome addiction is strong. Tana, when you were talking about chugging the Pellegrino and the Perrier, it reminded me of when I was 24, my first time seeing a therapist, and he was taking like notes, and I was an alcoholic at the time, big time. And he was like, wait, say that again. And I said, Budweiser is the nectar of the gods. That's how I felt about Budweiser, not Bud Light. Budweiser ice cold glass bottles oh, these are the nectar of the gods. And I just can't believe how absurd that sounds. It's really like, instead of worshiping, you're supposed to worship with your religion, faith, worship a person, worship nature. I was worshiping a bottle of poisonous alcohol, and I would pray too. I would just drink that stuff, and it made me feel so good. But now I feel way better than that stuff made me feel, and I'm drinking water. No fancy water, just some alkaline ionized water, and that's it. So people, when they're quitting opioids, quitting alcohol, quitting benzos, one of the main things is, will I ever feel good? Will I ever be able to be confident and feel this way without having to use this substance as a crutch? And then the longer someone does that for years and years, some people decades, the longer they've used something as a crutch, the more it makes you need that crutch. And additionally, the more it erodes your belief that someday you can feel good without that substance. But all three of us are total living proof that it's just a matter of time. And the more things that you do to correct your biochemistry, the faster people can start to feel good again and feel like they always wanted to feel. I used to have social anxiety, bipolar 2, generalized anxiety, kind of recurrent depressive disorder. I was labeled so many different things, ADHD. I don't feel any of those things at all anymore. I feel like, wow. And that kicks ass. But it took years and years and years of this type of work. So did it take a long time? Yeah. Detoxing was pretty easy this last time off of all the stuff I was taking. Post-acute withdrawal was pretty quick because the right supplements came in. But man, the rest of life, the rest of the time after that, I've had to work on a lot of different other things. And then most recently, to be totally free of mental health issues right now, and for quite some time now. It's just epic. That just shows you that if you Google neuroplasticity and addiction, you'll see all sorts of studies and articles on scientific journals now where neuroplasticity plays a huge role in how the brain becomes addicted to a substance. Yet neuroplasticity sames the same important role on how to repair your brain 120%, 150%, 200%, who knows. You can repair your brain to pre-addiction, a pre-addiction state, and you can repair your brain even better than your brain was before addiction. It's really, really just a matter of finding out the right information for your specific situation. And there's a lot into that. That's why we made our courses, because it's such detailed stuff. That's why we made our blogs and YouTubes. But it's just they get so afraid. I'll never feel good again. Alcohol gives me energy and motivates me to be happy and go do things, or opioids do that. But after initial detox, post-acute withdrawal, man, using the right protocols that are heavy on the biohacking, people would be surprised at just how fucking awesome they can feel even as short as 4 to 6 weeks after they quit a substance.
Or how awesome their organ is, the brain. That's an awesome organ that it can repair itself.
Yeah. And we got organ supplements too, including bovine brain, that we can use to make our brain even healthier nowadays.
We take care of it, it will take care of us. And it's interesting that you were talking about, you were serving Budweiser, because this morning my devotions was about who are we choosing to serve? And we can choose today who we're going to serve. Is it going to be alcohol, or is it going to be ourselves, or whatever it is? And yeah, you're right. My life revolved around when I was going to drink. I was serving alcohol, and I am no longer serving alcohol. Thank God I am serving him.
And you have physical proof that your brain has at least done a significant amount of repair.
Yeah.
Gone to the Amen Clinic as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really, really cool. And I wish I'd had brain scans done from back when I was a heavy drinker. I'm sure it would have looked as appalling as the pictures of me looked, that everyone can see on my on my website.
But you can feel the difference,
Oh yeah, I know it's there.
To
Absolutely.
and the brain fog isn't there anymore. I remember just feeling so almost kind of like I was out of my body, felt like I was having out of body experiences. And it's night and day to how I feel. And I'm sure you do too.
Oh yeah. No, and the brain repair is at a certain point, it becomes brain optimization. I think. I don't know that I have significant brain problems because I haven't had a panic attack in years. I don't really have bad days. I know when I need to shift my focus to something, when something situationally bad happens, you can spend some time absorbing or sitting in that negative energy, but it's never an intractable problem. Usually it's solved by biochemical tweaking, often as simple as just eating a high protein, high fat, good fat meal, or hydrating, or getting more sleep that night, or taking a certain supplement. But it's amazing how much can be achieved naturally. And I remember before I quit drinking, going in and talking to therapists, and I wish I could see the notes. I'm pretty sure my therapist was doodling because
Mine was too.
Same thing. I wish I could see those notes. They did not like me. I got fired by several therapists because every week I'd come in, they'd say, "How was your week?" I say, "Well, I've been drinking." Same thing. But I remember they would always say, we can refer you to someone who can give you Ambien and antidepressants, and maybe you need some Xanax. God knows where I would be if I had taken them up on all of those prescriptions. And luckily, I didn't. Now, luckily, hopefully, if I had come into contact with you, Matt, you would have helped me get off those things as well. But that would have added fuel to the fire and compounded the mess.
I think whether someone calls it God, the universe, or something, for anyone that believes in that type of topic, which I do, I hugely believe in that. I think that there's been so many synchronicities, like Chris, how you and me came into contact with each other, and then how Tana all of a sudden just was really needing help. Then she found your stuff, and then we all came together. Like, looking back on the past more than 9 years now, there have just been so many things that have worked out so cool. So nowadays, when something happens that could be seen as bad or whatever, or like, oh, I can't believe this is going to suck. Now I'm like, oh, but this could be a blessing. And I'm always thinking about further off into the future, like, I wonder how this is going to end up being a good thing down the line. And Tana, this is probably a perfect place to wind up here. Tana was kind of opening the episode with the Viktor Frankl quote, author of Man's Search for Meaning. And we can always create our own story. Like, we get to be the narrator of our life story. We're the protagonist. And a lot of people their story will prevent them from actually quitting drugs or quitting alcohol. They'll be like, well, I can't quit now because I have this job that I have to go to, or I can't quit now because, my family doesn't know and they need me to. This is all just story stuff. Anybody can quit at any time. You just stop taking the substance. Now, am I recommending that people do that? Absolutely not. Is that easy? Absolutely not. But when people really realize how much their story can either trap them to doing the same behaviors day in, day out, or free them when they create an empowering story. I was even thinking the other day of going, in my journaling, maybe I could start doing like fiction writing that could come true. Like, Matt Finch was doing this, the year started 2021, and write like a full-on short story of me going through 2021 and make it real detailed. So you're like visualizing it, and it's ingraining into your subconscious mind when you're doing that. And if I write a kick-ass story of how this would be a great year, that's going to imprint it into my subconscious and nervous system. And then my subconscious might even believe it to be true, in which case, boom, all of a sudden, all your behaviors, actions, and thoughts start lining up to make that happen. So self-authoring your own story, if your story's sucking, like a lot of people will make a lot of different excuses for a lot of different things, but when they write down the truth, it's really just the story that's holding them back. It's not the actual circumstances. You could quit a job. You could, be truthful with your wife or husband or boyfriend or girlfriend. There's so many things that we can do, but we're unwilling to do, because then if we change our story, that means then we're responsible for our lives. And that means that we need to start being responsible. So a lot of people will put off changing for that very reason.
I think that's a perfect place to wind down. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And all the listeners, have a safe New Year's Eve if you're listening to this then. Have a wonderful new year. We'll have the next episode for you of 2021, the first episode of 2021 on Tuesday, and we'll see you then.